everyone, welcome to a new class. My name is Bilikis. Today's class will be on how to draft a basic dress, which is very easy. It is just the same as drafting a basic body. It's just that it's going to be extended. Like this is the starting point to the hip, then you have the length of your dress instead of the length of your top. So all you need is the normal required measurement. So here I'm working with a medium size measurements, which I have here. So you need the bust point for her 10.5, waist length 17.5, hip length 24, length of the dress is 35, then the bust circumference is 38 inches, waist 30, hip 40, bust span 8. Then half of the handhold measurement, you can either measure or make use of the formula I taught you, which is bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. And here when I did that, I have 7.8, which is a bit over 7 3/4, so I just approximated it to 8 inches. So half of the handhold is 8 inches. Now let's get started. So the first thing you need to determine is the length of the dress, and here it is 35 inches. So this is the length of the top. So from the beginning, half of the handhold is 8 inches, the bust point is 10.5, then the waist length is 17.5, then the hip is 24, and the length of the dress is 35. Although I left one extra 1.5 inches at the lower part, the reason why I did that was in case you want to add seam allowance to a pattern. So I added 1.5. So that is the amount of seam allowance you're going to add. Half for folding it in, then 1 inch to fold again. So what we are going to do now is to start drafting right from the shoulder. The first thing I'm going to do is to insert the 3 inches 8 inches standard, which is 3 and 8. So by now you already know all this. From the 8 inches, I'll come down by half an inch for the back, 1 inch for the front. So having done that, the next thing is to determine the armhole line. And how do you do that? First, you insert your shoulder measurement, and the shoulder measurement I'm working with here is 15 inches. So when I divide that into 2, I will be having 7.5. So from the edge, I will measure 7.5, which is here. Then come to the chest line, 7.5. So now I have the shoulder line, the armhole line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to insert. You should increase your dart, because the dart is meant to give your waist area some shaping. So the more bustier you are, you could increase your dart width. Like for standard, it is 1/2 inch, but for medium to plus size, you can increase it to 1.5 or even 2 inches for somebody that is very busty. So that means it's going to make the bust prominent and more fitted. So, but if you are somebody that is just a normal size, not too busty, 1/2 inch on both sides is fine. So let me just do that of 1.5 so you see what it looks like. So now, having inserted the waist measurement of 7.5 plus 1/2 inch is to make it free. So for the dart, if you are somebody that is not busty, 1 inch is okay for your dart. But let's assume you are busty, let's make it 1.5, because you are, as you are going higher, you should learn to improvise and make your outfit more beautiful. So having done that, so that is 1.5 extra. Then to the hip, it is 40 inches. So when I divide that by 4, I'm going to have 10 plus 1/2 inch is, I'll make it 10.5. Now let's connect that before we go to the hem of the dress. It is just the same process as the basic bodies. So if you are making use of 1 inch darts, that means it will just be 1 inch here. So let me use another marker for that. That means you have something like this for someone that wants to maintain the 1 inch darts. So can you see that? Now after doing that, the next thing is, let us insert the handhold and the dart before we go to the hem of the dress. So for the handhold, all you have to do is to get the midpoint of whatever you have here. So 1/2 of 7 inches, does this. So after getting the midpoint, you will go in by 3/4 of an inch. Then your handhold off. Connect it to the edge here. So that's the front handhold. Then for the back handhold, so now we are done with that. So let's quickly insert the dart before the neckline. Either way, or let me just finish the neckline. So for the neckline, by standard, you just come down by 3 inches by 3 by 3 here. And then for the back is going to be 1 inch. Like standard, this is the neck you should have, but in case if you want a wider neck, you can also do that. So for instance, if you want to make it 3 inches in width by 4 inches, you could just increase that. So that's very easy to make. You can. This is going to have a zipper, so you could maintain this neckline if you wish. That totally depends on you. But let's assume you want to maintain the 3 inches in width and then come down by 4. That's all good. So you have something like this. Meanwhile, you can also increase the width to have 4 by 3. That's also okay. So here we are having, so So that is 4, that's 3 inches in width, 4 inches in depth. But in case you want 4 inches in width, you measure 4 inches and then connect to the 3 inches. That totally depends on your preference. So having done that, let's go to the dart. So for the dart now, you need your bust span. So the bust span of this measurement is 8. Half of that will be 4. So coming to the bust point, I'll measure 4 inches. Then to the hip, 4 inches. So now for the dart, if you are making use of 1 inch dart width, so all you have to do is to take half an inch on both sides. But if you are making use of the 1.5 for people that are busty, like for me, if I'm making the dress, I will make use of 1.5. So for those making use of 1.5, so that will be 3/4. When you divide 1.5 into 2, you are going to have 3/4 inches. So measure that on both sides. So that's what you will have. The next thing is to measure 1 inch from the bust point line and coming up from the lower part 1.5. So for the back, it will be from the chest line, but for the front, it will be from the bust point. So now the dart is ready. Now we can move to the lower part. This is the length of the dress. So all you have to do is very simple. You could just even add extra paper to your basic bodies and make your dress, because this is your normal basic bodies. So all you have to do is to take the measurement of whatever you have on the hip area. For me, it is 10.5 inches. So in this case, I'm just going to take away 1 inch or 1.5, depending on how hippie you are. If you are someone that is not so hippie, you don't have so much hip, just take away 1 inch from the hip measurement. But if you are someone that has hip, you can make use of 1.5. So take note of that. So for this now, this is 10.5. I'm just going to take away 1. So when I take away 1 from 10.5, I will be left with 9.5. So I'm just going to connect from here down here. So this is what I'm going to have. And you see that was pretty easy. So for someone that does 1.5, so it will come in a bit. So it will be more tapered, that is more fitted. So this is how to draft your basic sleeve pattern. And then I will make some suggestions too to those people that, for instance, if your bust measurement is more than your hip, you can increase the ease on your hip, because you don't want this place to be big and this place small. So you should be able to adjust it. So the same thing goes for the waist and other. I just add our seam allowance to all our patterns to make it easier. So you only know when you are cutting on your paper, you only add your zipper allowance to the back. So how do you do that? So for the side, just add 1 inch or 3/4 inch at times, depending, but I will advise you as a beginner to make it 1 inch. But usually I like just 3/4 inch. So let me just do 3/4. Use the seam allowance. That's the seam allowance. Then for the lower part, I have added 1.5 seam allowance for that. Then the shoulder now, what you will do is to add 1/2 inch seam allowance to the back shoulder. Then when we are cutting the front, we can trim it again. So now to the back shoulder, 1/2 inch to the back, half. We have added shoulder seam allowance. Then in case you want to add seam allowance to your armhole area, because I hardly add to that because I just take 1 centimeter from that, very little, and from the neckline, but you can add your seam allowance to that too. So having done that, now we can cut it all out. So starting from the lower part, what I'm going to do is to fold the seam allowance. You can see I did not extend it, but just fold it. Now you can bring it out. This is what you have. So then you decide which neckline, but first you have to cut the back neckline first. Then the back armhole. The basic dress is ready, so you can see the hem. So after doing that, what I'm going to do next is to slit this into 2. So this is going to be for the back and this will be for the front. I've slitted the paper, so now I've noticed the chest line, the waist, the hip. Those are the most important parts we need. So for the front, we'll come back to that. Now let's quickly go to the back. So let me just draw the lines. This is the chest line. This is the hip. I'm going to teach you a trick that gets rid of puffiness. That is when you attach your sleeve. I'm going to teach you that. So what I will do now, the waist now at the back, let me use pencil for that. Good. So this is the chest line, waist and hip. So now for the back, now this is also applicable to the basic bodies, but we take things easy as a beginner. For the waist, remember the bust is usually more in front than the back. There's no bust at the back. So this, because of this irregularity, it could cause puffiness at the back, whereby you have your zip folding. So the trick that works is this: if you are just a normal person, a small size, or anybody that is not busty, just come up by 1/2 inch from the waistline at the back. Did you see that? If you someone that is so busty, very heavy, you can make you do it 3/4 inch. Like for me now, I can load 3/4 inch. So for this medium size person, I'm just going to go up by 1/2 inch. And from this 1/2 inch at the back, now this is where the zipper will be. This side waist still remain the same, just connect it straight down and it does magic. So I'm doing 1/2 inch. So can you see it is slanted upward, not downward. So after doing that, we can now insert our bust span. Half of the bust span is 4 inches. Coming here 4 inches on the hip. There are even some people that are busted that you go all as high as 1 inch. So now you will make use of this. This is the new waistline. Then for the back, you just take 1/2 inch on both sides. So that is it. So for the back, you come down by 1 inch. Also at the lower part, you come up by 1 inch. So this is what it looks like at the back. So the back is ready. So everything is intact for the pattern. It's just when you are sewing in the darts, that's where the difference, the adjustment comes in. So back to the front. So for the front now, so for the neckline, so we can decide anyone. So let's just make use of the 4 inches. The total depends on your preference. And the front handhold. That's good. And the last thing will be to adjust the shoulder line. Remember, we added the 1/2 inch to the back, so this half remains the same. So coming to this front side, 1/2 inch, which is here. So the front panel too is ready. So now we can go to the fabric to cut it out. Time for us to cut out the pattern. So the last alteration on the back, when we get there, I will explain that, because we only took 1 inch for the dart at the back, but 1.5 in front. So all you have to do now is to fold your fabric. Make sure your fabric is on fold, as you can see that. After doing that, then I clipped it all down. Then I can just cut it all around, because we've added all our seam allowance. right? So I'm going to teach you how to transfer your dart onto your fabric. So let me cut for the back. A quick one for the back. Remember, for the front we took 1.5 inch for the dart, but at the back you don't need that much, so we only took 1 inch, so we have 1/2 inch excess. So all I did was to come in 1/2 inch from the waist, then connect from the bust then to the hip. So that's that. So the back pattern is ready. Now that I've trimmed the side off, the next thing we are going to do is to add the vents that's in the working slit. So all I did was to just add a paper, then sellotape it to it. That's very easy to do. Now from my crease here, I know this is the hemline. So this is the hemline, this is the actual length of the skirt. So by standard, you go up by 5 inches, depending on how long your dress is. But for a short dress, 5 to 6 inches is just fine. So from the length, this is the seam allowance, so I'm not going to add that to it. So from the actual hem, go up by 5 inches, so which is here. Let me extend this. So this is the actual hem, there's the seam allowance, so 5 inches from there. The next thing will be from this line before the zipper allowance, you just add 2 inches. So 2 inches or 2.5 is fine, but 2 inches is okay. So this is what I have, and this is 2 inches. So for style, just come down by 1/2 inch. There's nothing particular about that, but just for style. Good. Then I'm going to come to the actual hem. Now 2 inches, so that's going to go all down. So that's what we have. See, I've successfully added the veins to the dress. So beautiful. So this will be for the hem. Can you see? So right now I'm going to fold my fabric to start cutting it out. I have folded another fabric, as you can see, and I placed the pattern on it. So all I did was to add 1 inch for the zipper allowance. So as you can see, first I drew a first line, so that's for proper understanding. After placing in the line, measured 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. So when you get here, you can make it 3/4 inch because you don't want to make it too much. So 3/4, and you see these all 1 inch. When I got here, 3/4, but if it's confusing, you can make use of 1 inch, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. So that's all I did. So the next thing will be for me to cut it out. And when you get to the neckline area here, just match it up. So that's where you're going to have. So I want you to see how I'm going to cut this part. Here. So that's how I'm going to cut it all out. We've added seam allowance to others. This is what I have for the back, as you can see that. So the next step now for me is to transfer my dart. So you could just get any type of punch hole at all. So for me, I'm making use of my hole. So I'll just make a punch hole here, then here. Good. Then set up your pattern so well. So my marker, you can make use of your pencil or your fabric pen. So at those holes you made. So looking at the point, I've already transferred my dart. So to make it visible, please don't use marker on your fabric, but because I'm teaching, you need to see everything I'm doing. That is why I'm doing that. So you can use your fabric pen instead. So can you see how easy I transferred my darts? So that's it. So I did that on the wrong side. So that's how to transfer your darts. So I'm going to do it to the other panels and also the front. Right now I've transferred all the darts. So this for the back, both sides, and then the front. So I marked on the wrong side. So this is the right side. So the darts will be taken to give it some fitting. Now you can decide to use a bias strip to finish your neckline, or you can make use of facing. But I'll be making use of facing so that I can teach you another method of finishing your dress. So all I'm going to do now is this: just fold some fabric. Make sure the folded part aligns with the folded part here. And use your fabric pen. I'm using a marker. Trace it, or with your tailor's chalk. Tailor's chalk is fine. Tailor's chalk. But I just want everything to be visible to you. Then mark the shoulder here. Good. So that's for the front. After doing this now, just measure 3.5 inches. 3.5 or 4 inches. If you don't have a serger, you can make use of 4 inches. So I'm making use of 3.5. That's an easy way of cutting out your facing. That's just the easiest way of cutting your facing. And you see how everything just matches perfectly. So this is how to cut your facing. Now we are going to cut for the back. Now for the back, I have a folded fabric. So let me just take one piece. The same way. So measure the same thing, 3.5. can use your cuff to make this less confusing. So this is the facing for the back. So in our next class, we'll be sewing up the dress together. Thank you so much. I remain your girl Bilikis. Bye.